Hi, welcome to Toast Time. I'm Cassandra. This week I'm making chocolate-filled braided bread. This is a sweet dough and it will have a sweet filling and a sweet icing, so it's more like a dessert. It's going to be, I think, delicious. The filling has almonds and ginger and chocolate and nutmeg, um, so it's going to be very holiday-esque. The origins of this aren't really known, but I'm kind of assuming that as soon as people started eating chocolate, they started eating chocolate and bread. But this recipe, from the research I've done, comes somewhat from Austria. I also want to say thank you so much to my husband for my adorable chocolate mousse apron. I love, love, love it. And I thought it was very festive for the holidays. Okay, to start, we're going to do the dough because it has to rise. So I have some warm milk here. Just check. Yeah, it's cooled down a bit. We want it warm because we're going to put in some of the sugar, not all of it, but some, and the yeast. We're going to let that sit for just a minute. Okay. Into the mixer bowl, I'm going to add most of the flour. We're going to keep some of it in case we need it, but we might not need all of it, depending on the moisture in the air and the other liquids in our measurements. So we're going to hold off on that. The flour, the butter, I have melted and cooled butter. Give it a little swirl. Okay. The rest of the sugar. The egg. And vanilla. All right, I'm going to put the milk mixture into here now. Put a swirl, try and get all of it out. I might actually need to use a spatula. Some of the yeast stuck to the sides. All right. And I'm going to put, so this was the milk, yeast, and sugar. I'm going to pour it in here with the rest of the ingredients. And we're going to put it on the mixer with the dough hook. Here is the dough. So it's not sticky, it's tacky. I can feel it. It wants to stick, but it's not coming off on my hands, which is what we want. I'm going to take this and we're going to let it rest. Maybe about an hour, depends on how warm your house is. We want it to double in size. That's the most important thing, double in size. Let me grab a bowl. All right. Put this in, and I'll get a cap for it in a minute. But I'm gonna start prepping the filling just a little bit right now because we need to toast the almonds. I just have raw whole almonds. So I'm gonna give them a quick little chop, do some toasting, and kind of get everything ready. Also, my ginger was pretty dehydrated. I put it in just a little bit of water to help it hydrate a bit more. Otherwise, it's just not gonna blend well with the other ingredients. All right, that's rising. I'm going to take my almonds. I still want texture to it, but I don't want it to be these huge chunks that we're gonna get. I also want there to be more surface area to roast. I want to cut them beforehand, not roast them and then cut them up. So this is just going to take me a minute. I'm going to be nice and patient with it. So I realize, yes, this is more toasting than roasting, but the main goal here is to get the oils activated and to bring out more of the flavor of the almonds. So I'm not going to be putting them in the oven. I'm doing it on my cast iron pan. It's still going to bring out really good flavors and give that little cooked, nuttier flavor to it. That's it for a minute, and I'll do that a couple more times. Then we're just going to wait for the dough to rise, and we'll be ready for the filling. All right, here are the almonds. Nice smell to them. I did put them in the NutriBullet for a quick second. I just pushed down. I didn't lock it or anything to keep going. I just pushed down on it so that I got a little bit finer grind on it. But I do have a lot of bigger pieces here. So we're going to have nice crunch and texture to it. I also, after that, put the ginger that had been soaking into the NutriBullet so that it would break up a bit. I didn't want to chop it by hand because I do know it was very dehydrated and very dry. It would have been difficult. I threw it in there for a second, and you can see now it's a little more mushed up and doesn't look very pretty, but that's okay. It's all right. I know it looks very liquidy, but it's still going to sit for another 45 minutes or so, and it'll absorb that liquid. It's not an ingredient I use very often. I actually do want to use it more because it's very good, but I have had that in there for a while, and so it did need some help to be able to be used. All right, that. And also I cleaned up the workspace a bit, got rid of some of those bowls that were empty, just tidied up, keep the space nice. I'm going to cut up the butter, that way it can soften. All right. I don't want them to fall back on top of each other too much because the whole purpose of this is that there's more surface area and the air can soften it easier. All right, one more. And we'll let that sit. Make sure they're all back onto the paper here. Otherwise it'll soften right onto my board. All right, I have two types of chocolate in here. You can't really tell that they're different, but that's the two types. I have a double chocolate cocoa powder. The color is a lot darker. The flavor is more rich. I also have brown sugar, and this is my ginger. I think I'm good. I'm just gonna let that dough rise, clean up a little bit more, and then once it is almost double, when it has about 15 minutes left is when I'll put together the filling. I quickly wanted to show you one of my tricks for when I'm cleaning up. If I want to move a bunch of these little bowls and the stuff, I'll put it onto a baking sheet, and then I'm not moving things around all the time. I have it all right here. I can put it over on the counter there and wipe this down, and then I'm able to bring it right back over. Since our dough is almost doubled, it's time to start making our filling. All of these things are going to go into here and then go onto the mixer with the whisk attachment. Let's just make sure we have everything. We have the chocolate chips and the baking chocolate is all in here. The cocoa powder, butter, which has now softened nicely, brown sugar, the ginger, yeah, nice. Okay. And almonds. All right, I'm gonna bring this over. Put it with the whisk, and we want it to be kind of a grainy texture. Says kind of like sand. You don't want to turn it on too high because then you're going to get your ingredients all over your kitchen. It'll just go right up the sides and out. It'll start kind of low and work your way up. The butter is starting to break apart. Now, I didn't chop the chocolate because that's going to melt when it goes into the oven. The almonds I chopped and the ginger because those won't melt or get smaller in any way. So I need those to be the size I want them to be. I'm going to turn this up. Yeah, it's almost fully incorporated. All right, that's gonna be it. I'll bring it over here. Get this. This is the filling. Oh, take a look. Yeah, wet sand. That's a really good description of it. I'm also going to get out the rest of the tools I need, like a sharp knife and some flour and the baking sheet I'm going to be doing this on. All right, now for the pretty part. I have lightly floured my workspace. I have extra flour here in case I need it. I'm going to take out the dough and see how much it rose. Nice and fluffy, good webbing in there. All right. I also have a ruler with me because when we set it up to do the braids, we want it to be consistent on the size. That's going to help us a lot. Forgot my rolling pin. Got it. Okay. So 15 is almost my board. All right. Then 12. It's going to kind of eyeball it for right now so that I can have an idea. If I push my flour in, it'll give me a rough idea of what I'm looking at. Okay. All right. Start in the center. Go to the outside. Start in the center. Go to the outside. That's about my length. I'm going to start on the width here. Push it out. And we want this to be a rectangle. I'm going to try and push these middle parts out into corners. Check it. That's 11 by 14. That. Lift it off of the surface, make sure it's not stuck, and make sure it's not pulling back too much. $15. The next step is figuring out about a third of it. Going to have my 12, and I'm going to just put a mark at my 4 and my 8. Right? So we want 1 inch, which is the width of my ruler. So I'm going to use that. And I see my line is here. I'm going to do a little, I'm not cutting it. I'm making a very, very, very shallow line so I don't go past it. You barely have to touch this dough to make an indent in it. Okay. Now we're cutting through, going here and here. Okay. Now we're going to keep doing that all the way down. It's very easy to cut through. You don't have to put much pressure or anything like that. Just have to be patient because you're going to go all the way down. Okay. We have all of these and we have our center area. I'm going to take this filling and put it in the middle and just kind of mound it up in the middle to start. Make sure you leave about a half an inch, so about a half of one of your cuts here without anything on the top and the bottom. Wow, this is a lot of filling for this. Okay. To be honest, I wasn't expecting it to be that much of a ratio. It's going to be good. All right. And now we start our braiding, which is going to start with this first here. And we're going to cross it and cross it. I'm going to go to this one and cross it and try to go all the way over to the side. You want to really create a tight weave of this. You don't want that leaking out. You can stretch it a little bit if you need to. That's totally fine. It's very pretty. Okay. You know what? Actually, I'm going to wait on these. I'm going to bring this up. These ones I'm going to do. I'm not going to do. There we go. Then cross this over. Cross this one over. Cross this one. There we go. Now we get that nice close. Okay. And this one wants to flip over this way since I flipped it up. It wants to flip. Do that. And then you bring it and you tuck it underneath so it stays closed. And there she is. Wow, it looks really cool. All right, so now it's going to sit and do its proof for about another hour or so. We're on to the final step. The oven is preheated to 350. This has proved very nicely. It's nice and light and fluffy and looks beautiful. And I have some milk and my brush. Very gently going to brush this on. You want to be careful to not push too hard, but you also want to make sure that you get all of the areas of it, because you will see the difference in coloring of where you put it and where you didn't. If you watch the croissant video, you'll see exactly what I mean, because I showed the example on there. Go one by one. Some of it's going to drip down onto the baking sheet. That's okay. Try to avoid it as much as possible. It's going to happen though. All right, this is going to go in the oven for 25 minutes about. We want it to be golden brown and crispy on top. All right, I'll see you after. I just took this out of the oven and put it directly onto a cooling rack. It looks really pretty. I love the color. And I'm going to now mix this up. I just have a double boiler. I have a pot with a tiny bit of water, and I have metal bowls that fit in most of my pots actually kind of perfectly. So I'm going to melt this chocolate. This will be the drizzle on top. And then we're almost done. This is mostly cooled, and I've melted the chocolate. Depending on the chocolate you decide to use, you may want to add a little something else to it, either some heavy cream to loosen it up a little bit, or maybe some Crisco or oil, butter, something if you're going to be drizzling it on. You can do the spoon drizzle method, which works very well, but I do have these little guys, so I wanted to try it with that. I'm going to take this carefully, try and get it in here. This is not a smart move. Oh boy, this is going to take a while. There we go. Oh, that's better than I thought. Okay. You don't want to add so much that it's not going to set up, but you do want it to be able to drizzle. So it's a delicate balance, but you'll find what works for you. I think I'm going to stop there. I'm not going to use all of the chocolate. Let me see. Yeah, now it's getting caught on the side, which is just going to make it a smaller opening and make the rest of the chocolate catch as well. So that's going to be that. Okay. Here we go. And I'm going to do it on here because I can scrape it off easily. The marble gets very cold. It'll set up the chocolate quickly, and then I can use a bench scraper to scrape it off. Here goes. Here we go. Oh my gosh, it looks so cool. All right, I'm going to go back the other way, trying to catch all of the ups that I didn't get before and the downs that I didn't get before. Just kind of keep going back and forth here. And I don't want to overdo it. I think that's good. All right, there it is. Wow. Okay, I'm going to move this over to my cutting board. I'll move this over to be washed. And I'll move this over so I don't get chocolate on the bottom of my cutting board. Okay, here's the loaf. Looks very pretty. Nice golden color from the milk that was put on the outside. And let's cut into it. I didn't let the chocolate set up on the outside, so it's going to be a little bit messy. And you can do the same, or you can wait like 15 minutes or so and let the chocolate set. But I'm very impatient right now, and I want to try it. Oh, really nice and fluffy dough. And the chocolate filling looks great. Okay. Not quite sure how to do this. That's what I'm going to do. Cut that end off. Really nice dough. Okay. Cheers. That ginger comes through quite a bit. I'm glad I didn't do quite as much as they said, but the filling texture, I left some of those almonds a little bit bigger. It's very good. Very messy. The dough itself is very light and airy. And yeah, the filling, the chocolate is good, but it's just too much ginger, I think, coming through. Maybe once it sets a little bit, and if it's not as gooey, the flavors may meld a little bit more. But I think it looks beautiful. I really like the dough, and I would probably adjust the filling a little bit. All right. Thank you so much for joining me. Please visit the website, toasttime.fun, and I will see you next toast time.